All right, guys, here we go. So, as you're probably already aware of, the most annoying thing about people who play through replays is that they won't shut up about their stats. I'm not about to become an exception to that rule. So, we're going to talk here a little bit about how the stats are going so far in this replay. It's mostly only interesting to the person actually conducting the replay. My hope, though, is that because so many of these games are being played publicly and because you can read the write-ups of so many games and so many articles about them, my hope is that at least somebody out there might be a little bit interested and might want to pay a little bit of attention to this and see what happens. And of course, if you don't, it's perfectly fine. I understand. I won't feel bad. So we go straight into this and look at the standings. You can see the Giants are kind of in control here in the National League, which is a surprise. This is not a team that played particularly well at any point in time in 1949. They have been pitching well, and they have been hitting just well enough. They have more runs scored than any other team in either league. 34 games in, they're 25-9. So we're not exactly looking at 1984 Tigers territory, but the 735 winning percentage is still really impressive. 68 run margin difference. And there's a big gap between them and the Pirates in second place, who are 3.5 games back, and a huge gap, of course, going down to the Cubs, who are 13.5 back. It's going to be a long season for the Cubs. Sorry for any Cub fans out there, but that's a bad team that might end up playing worse in this replay than they did in real life. The Brooklyn Dodgers and St. Louis Cardinals, of course, are the real story here. The Dodgers have been able to put it somewhat together offensively. They have the second most potent offense in the National League in terms of runs scored, but it's that pitching that gets them, and the pitching will continue to get them, even though they have Don Newcomb. And the reason why is because they're not great in relief and they're not great in everything else. So we'll see what the Dodgers are able to do. But my guess, as I was saying before, is that they're probably not going to be able to overcome that awful start to the season that they had. The Cardinals are all the way down in seventh place, and I know that we're only, 32 games in for them. There's still a lot of season to be played, but this is not looking good. They do have a positive run differential, but despite the fact that they have, I guess, the second best pitching staff in the National League at 136 runs allowed, they're just not getting it done offensively, and you really have to wonder what's going on in St. Louis. I'm doing the best that I can with the lineups that I have. You might say, well, maybe we shouldn't have Musial hit leadoff, but given how much he produces on offense, I'd rather have him lead off than hit anywhere else. The American League, it's the tale right now of the Indians and the Yankees. Yankees and Indians both split their respective doubleheaders. They're tied for first place. It's New York that's played 32 games. Cleveland has only played 28. The Yankees, of course, have the more potent offense, but again, it's that pitching that gets to them, especially their propensity for giving up bases on balls. And you'll see that the Red Sox and the Tigers, of course, are still within striking distance. I don't expect the Tigers to make a serious attempt at the pennant. The Red Sox will. Philadelphia Athletics are also in there, and as I've said the whole time, I do think that the Diamond Mine baseball game will overestimate the Athletics and their abilities, especially because they tend to have good OPS with a lot of guys who will walk, and they also are very capable of turning double plays on defense. So I do think that the Athletics are probably going to finish better in this replay than they did in real life. And everybody else is just everybody else. I mean, the Browns, they're actually outperforming their real-life team. They're not a great team. Senators are bad. 49 Senators, one of the worst teams. Not necessarily of all time, but you're getting to the point where you're kind of splitting hairs. We'll take a quick look over here at other stuff. The thing I'm always interested in this, of course, is whether there's a huge home and road differential for any team, because remember, I always control the home team. The Pirates see a big one, so that might be a sign that I might not be quite as good at managing them as the computer is. Other teams, it looks like I'm pretty good at managing the Dodgers. They haven't done well on the road. And now, it's probably too early to really say much about this. You can see the Braves, too. I'm doing okay with them. The computer's not doing quite as okay. Do better with the Reds, and so on and so forth. Over time, though, these differences will disappear, and you can see in the American League, there's really not that much of a difference as we go down the list. Nothing really to pay too much attention to. Lefty-righty splits is another thing that we could look deep into. The one thing that really stands out to me is how the Giants are just feasting off of left-handed pitching. Might be something to keep in mind, but then again, I don't necessarily choose pitchers according to their handedness. I choose them according to who is capable of pitching because they're not too tired, because we're in the middle of the pennant race, so you kind of do what you have to do. Going over here, you can see, the most interesting thing here probably to look at is the one-run game records. Yankees do quite well in one-run games. Nobody else really stands out other than the Phillies losing a bunch, and they just won 2 one-run games from the Pirates. So let that be what it may. Other interesting thing here is comparing, of course, this is the in-game Pythagorean percentage with the actual winning percentage. The Giants have had a little bit more luck. Pirates have had a lot more luck than you would expect. And the Dodgers, by the way, are probably right around where they are expected to be. It's the Cardinals that have not had very much luck, and that's something that I think that we can look and we could expect. Indians have actually had some bad luck, as have the Yankees and the Red Sox. So all 3 of those teams are kind of out underperforming their Pythagorean. The Tigers are really underperforming it, whereas the Athletics seem to be having all of the luck going their way. Again, I think this is the effect of having those double plays and being able to succeed defensively. Now, my apologies in advance for doing this. We're going to look really quick at the leaders, and we'll look really quick, very quickly at a couple team stats. I won't keep you too long. My apologies, though, because this is not going to be very visible for you because I can't change Diamond Mind and make it bigger because of reasons. But here you go. Look at this really quick. Eddie Robinson has a 376 average. He's leading the majors, followed closely by Dom DiMaggio. Everybody here on top is in the American League. Jackie Robinson leads the National with a 358 average. On-base percentage, no surprise here. Ted Williams has a 510 on-base percentage and is just totally crazy good. Ralph Kiner is leading the slugging percentage rate with race with a 762. We go down here to home runs. We can see Kiner leads the league with his now 15 home runs, which is pretty impressive, right? I mean, remember, we've only played, so many games here, 30-something games. We'll see if Kiner can keep up that pace. Stolen bases, no surprise again. Jackie Robinson already has 15 steals. Oh, yes, look at this. We can double-click on him. How about that? He was 37 stolen bases and 16 times caught in real life. In the simulation, he's really outpacing that. So we'll see what happens. This is in only 34 games, so we're not even... we're I guess about a third of the way to his total. We're not even close to a third of the way done with the season. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what happens. This is the other thing I wanted to look at, which is how many games has Kiner played. Kiner has played in 33 games, 15 home runs already. He's hitting almost a home run every other game, right? So he is technically on pace to hit, not just 60, but like 70-something. We'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to hit that many, but he might, and you bet he's going to play probably in all of 154 games if he's not injured. I don't know what happened to him exactly in real life because he missed, 2 games. Who knows? I'm just going to take a quick look at this and see if there's anything else interesting worth talking about. Not really. I would say go see the blog, but it's going to be a couple months before this is put up on the blog. So I'll walk you through this, and then you can go look at it closer in a couple of months' time and feel surprised. We'll just do the basic stats. Mel Parnell with a 1.59 ERA, followed, of course, by Al Brazila, who has a 1.68 ERA. And that's 1.68 ERA, despite the fact he's got a 1-2 record. That shows you how unlucky the Cardinals have been. Rounding up the low ERAs is Eddie Lope at 1.74 for the Yankees, and then Kurt Simmons, of all people, at 1.95 for the Phillies. Simmons, by the way, is 3-0. So that's one of the reasons why the Phillies are playing so well. Preacher Rowe, Ralph Branca are both leading the league in strikeouts. Of course, remember that Don Newcomb has only had, I think, 2 starts so far, so he will be up there pretty soon. Kennedy and Costello, both with 6 wins for the Giants. Eddie Lopez leading the American League with 5. Kennedy's 6-0, Costello 6-1, because remember he just lost that game the other day, and Eddie Lopez is at 5-0. Low batting average, it's again the Brooklyn pitchers, Barney and Branca, but when you take a closer look, Barney is 2-1, and Branca was 4-0. He still is 4-0. He wasn't charged with that loss, but the problem with Brooklyn is the bullpen, right? Not the starters. The starters are actually okay. It's the bullpen, and they can't get enough complete games out of them. So that's sort of the problem that you have there with them. We'll look quickly here and see if we can find this. See, Preacher Rowe's given up 11 home runs already. That's not good for the Dodgers. Costello and Spahn are both tied with 7 complete games. Boy, with today's baseball, you just never see something like that. Somebody having 7 complete games in a season, let alone this early in the season. So much for that. We're going to take a quick look. Instead of looking at this, we're going to take a quick look again at the reports. Very, very quick. I know that we're almost done here. We're going to look at some of the team totals. We'll look at the batting totals first. We want to see all of the teams. We want to look at terms of OPS. I'm not going to do a comparison with real life, right? The Phillies, or the Athletics rather, are hitting 295 as a team. The Cubs are at the bottom at 225. Interesting thing here, the Dodgers, of course, hit a lot of home runs, and they're not playing very well. Interesting thing to look at here, though, the reason why I do this is because we really want to look at OPS, right? I still believe that OPS is probably a good way to look at the overall offense of a team. I know we can look into WAR and calculating WAR and stuff. It's not going to work so well with Diamond Mine unless there may be another tool that allows me to do it. I don't have time right now to play with that, so we'll see. But yeah, the Athletics have an 833 on-base OPS, which is the thing that's really driving their offense. Brooklyn is second with 811, and then the Yankees at 791. Giants in a 781, right? So the Athletics are in, what, fourth place, right? Dodgers are actually out of the pennant race for the time being. They're pretty far back, and they're sinking like a rock. And you think, well, how can that happen with that offense? Well, the reason why is because we go over here, we'll look at our pitching totals. We're going to organize this by the same thing. Go down here and choose OPS. There's probably a way to automate this, whatever. We're not going to worry about ERA and all that stuff because we just care about OPS against. And this is the reason why, right? So the Giants have a 645 OPS against. So they're in the leaders of both leagues with their own OPS, and they're very good at preventing opponents from getting on base and scoring runs. They're followed not so closely behind by the Cardinals. And then, of course, come the Athletics. So we'll see what happens there in the end. The teams that are not doing so well here, though, of course, the Red Sox are having some problems. Dodgers actually are doing okay, but again, you have to look at sort of situational pitching and how much of that is the starters, how much is the relievers. The other thing that we'll look at quick, and I just said the wrong thing again, is, of course, our fielding totals, because we're very, very interested in looking at what double plays are like for teams in the major leagues in general. And instead of doing all the math for you here, we'll just do a little bit of eyeball work. Remember, I think the record is, 216, I think, for the Philadelphia Athletics this season. Which gives them probably about 1.5 double plays a game. They have 54 so far in 33 games. They're not quite on pace to have 2 a game, but they are definitely above that record-setting pace. In fact, so are the St. Louis Browns, right? And the New York Yankees are turning a lot of double plays as well. Interestingly enough, the New York Giants are the team that is not turning a lot of double plays. So it's interesting to see how that works and how all of this happens. Just looking through this quickly, no surprise here, the Brooklyn Dodgers are probably the hardest team to steal on because of Roy Campanella. Of course, he has to play, to be able to throw guys out stealing, but he's got a really good arm and has enabled them to have only a .421 stolen base percentage against, which is pretty good stuff. Fielding percentages and stuff, we could look at it. There's so little difference between the teams, it doesn't really mean that much. For me, it's really mostly about the double plays. And the double plays do tell a little bit of the story here. Like I said, this is one of the reasons why the Athletics end up playing very well. So there you have it. There's a little bit of the bragging about the stats in the project. That's what guys like me love to do. I know that, and you know that as well. And we'll see where we go from here. I'll talk with you again tomorrow. We'll have another game, and we'll start it all over again and see what happens with the next week. So we'll talk to you then. I hope you have a good day. Take care. Bye.